to the new season of the greatest show in history, I think, Jesus or Muhammad. Might not be the most entertaining, sometimes entertaining, but certainly up there with the most important shows in history because we ask the fundamental question for so many people in the world today, both Christians and Jews, Jesus or Muhammad. Muslims will say both, but when you examine the teachings of Jesus, you find out it can't be both. These are not in the, Muhammad and Jesus are certainly not in the same prophetic chain. So these are issues that we cover in the show. We cover Jesus. We defend Jesus as Lord and the Messiah, and we also address Muhammad, although we don't believe in Muhammad. But we invite Muslims to call into the show, to debate, to give their reasons, to see if there's anything we're missing here. And so far, we've been on here for a couple of years, and we haven't seen a single reason to believe in Muhammad. And if you think you do have the reasons, or you think you know someone who does, please get in contact with us. We'd love to hear from you. I'm David Wood, and tonight I have a couple of friends with me. I have my friend C.L. Edwards.
Hello.
Who's been on the show several times before. CL, as those of you, if you've been watching the show in the past, you know CL. CL is a former Muslim. He converted to Islam, stayed in the Islamic fold for about a decade, and realized just wasn't for him. So we'll be discussing some of these issues tonight with him. We also have, for the first time, our friend Darwin Giles.
Hello, everyone.
In the studio. And we're going to be getting to an interview with Darwin a little later in the show because this is relevant to our topic tonight, which is honor killings in Islam. And Darwin was a friend of a girl who was honor killed just last year. So he's going to tell us, share with us a little bit of what he knows about that situation. We're here to talk about honor killings. This is really an important show to kick off the new season with because just very recently, you must have been in a cave somewhere if you didn't hear about the Shafia honor killings in Canada. A man named Muhammad Shafia, with the help of one of his wives and one of his sons, killed 3 teenage daughters and one of his other wives. They tried to cover it up. They tried to make it look like that these girls were just in a car accident. But the police investigated and uncovered the truth, and the truth was that these girls were killed for dishonoring Islam. Now, if you are familiar with Islamic teachings and with the prevalence of honor killings in the Muslim world, I'm sure you were disturbed by the media coverage of these killings. And the reason is pretty much everywhere you went on the media, anywhere in the mainstream media, you were hearing the same thing over and over and over again like a beating drum. You heard honor killings have nothing to do with Islam. Islam condemns killing. Islam would never allow fathers to murder their daughters. That's what we heard over and over and over again. But here on Jesus or Muhammad, we like to take a bit deeper look at these issues before deciding one way or another. And so tonight we're going to focus on this issue, and for a while we're going to talk about honor killings in general, and we're going to see whether this practice does have something to do with Islam or whether it's just a total coincidence that it keeps happening in the Muslim community. And after that we're going to sort of zero in on an upcoming human rights conference, and we're going to interview our friend Darwin, and we'll also have Pamela Geller by Skype later in the program. So it should be interesting. Let's jump right in. Honor killings. Now, CL.
Yes, sir.
We have various commands in the Quran and the Hadith. Muslims are commanded to believe in Allah. They're commanded to believe in Muhammad. They're commanded to pray 5 times a day. They're commanded things like that. Do we have that kind of command that says you need to kill daughters who dishonor their family?
No, you don't have those exact words anywhere in the Quran and the Hadith that say to put, disobedient children to death.
So we would have to agree with Muslims, at least on a surface level, that you don't have the same kind of direct commands that you have for lots of other issues in Islam. Right.
Exactly.
Okay. So we would agree, you Muslims out there, we would agree with you that when you say, if what you mean when you say Islam, there are no honor killings in Islam or something like that, is you don't have an official command to commit honor killings as honor killings. In other words, something that restores family honor that has been damaged by someone who dishonored the family somehow, we would agree with you. That's on one side of the issue. On the other side, here's what you have. The vast majority of honor killings in the world are committed by Muslims and usually against Muslims. It's not against Muslims when the Muslim teenage girl converts to another religion. Then it's not, you're not killing a Muslim anymore. You're killing a Christian or something like that. But the vast majority, over 90% of honor killings in the world are committed by Muslims. And when you have that high a correlation, that's called a correlation. It's where you have one and you have the other, right? When you have that kind of correlation, then you have to start asking yourselves why. Why is it that one particular group is committing so many of this particular kind of crime? And just to give you an example, suppose we're, for those here in the United States, we have lots of denominations of Christianity, let's say, right? So we have lots of denominations of Christianity. Suppose one particular denomination of Christianity were committing over 90% of one kind of crime. So suppose Presbyterians were committing over 90% of all the armed robberies in the country. There would come a point when we'd say, why? Why is it that this particular group is committing this particular kind of crime? And that's the question we need to ask when it comes to Islam. Why is it that honor killings thrive in Islam while they don't thrive in other contexts? And so, CL, I just asked you, do you have clear commands to commit honor killings as a method of restoring honor? In Islam, you said no.
That's right.
Now, the follow-up question would be, do we have sort of reasons within the Islamic tradition? Do we have beliefs or views or positions in Islam that would allow honor killings to thrive that we don't have necessarily in other religious traditions?
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with this ayah in the Quran that talks about how fitna in the land is worse than killing. So, I mean, what does that mean? Fitna in the land is worse than killing. What's fitna?
Now, you were a Salafi. You could pack a lot into fitna, right?
Oh, that, yeah.
For those who have no clue what you're talking about right now, give us a general idea of what that would include.
Well, fitna can be apostation from Islam, outright, where you say, I'm Muslim, I no longer am Muslim, I renounce Islam. But you can apostate from Islam by denying anything that's cardinal to Islam, like the nature of the Quran, the 5 pillars of Islam, some of the cardinal rules of Islam, like wearing the hijab or khimar, being modest, praying 5 times a day. So if you say, I don't believe in that, or even if you just don't do it, I believe in it, but I just don't do it, that's fitna also. All of that is fitna. So all of that, according to the Quran and the God of the Quran, is worse than murder. It's worse than killing. So now, to put it in the context of what we're talking about, you have a young lady or a child. You migrate here to America, or you live here in America, and you see the culture around you. Maybe I don't want to wear hijab anymore. All the other kids at school don't wear hijab. I don't want to look like the funny Muslim girl. I want to wear what's hip and cool. I don't feel like getting up for Fajr, which is the morning prayer. That's fitna. And according to Islam's holy book, that's worse than murder. So that can be eliminated with killing. Killing that person and getting them out the way because they refuse to repent and return back to Islam is the better solution than allowing this person to disgrace Islam, to rebel against Islam, rebel against the Quran and Sunnah, which is rebelling against God himself, and rebelling against his messenger, Muhammad. That's killing that person and getting rid of that person. That's a better solution than allowing them to run around doing what they want to do.
Along with that thought, I wanted to add a quick verse of the Quran because it's so common. In fact, nowadays it's the most common verse used by Muslims and Muslim defenders of Islam to show that Islam is a religion of peace and tolerance, and because a Muslim recently came on my blog and tried to use this to show that Islam condemns honor killings. How many times, viewers, have you heard this? Islam doesn't allow killing. How do we know? Because in the Quran it says, anyone who has killed a man, it is as if he killed all mankind. If you've killed someone, it's as if you've killed all mankind. That's what Islam teaches. How can Islam allow violence? When it says if you've killed one man, you've killed everyone. How could this religion be violent? Now, there's a lot in this verse. I'm only going to read a part of it because there are a lot of problems with this verse when you look at it. But let me just read that little part, the part that people rip out of context and try to show that Islam is peaceful. On this issue of honor killings, let's look at what it actually says. Whosoever, this is Surah 532, you can read it. You'll start to see some of the other issues with this verse. But granting what Muslims say, that this is something that they believe in, whosoever killeth a human being for other than manslaughter or corruption in the earth, it shall be as if he killed all mankind. Did you catch that? It doesn't say if you've killed a man, it's as if you've killed all mankind. It says if you've killed a man either for manslaughter or for corruption in the earth. If you're spreading corruption in the earth, then it's as if you've killed all mankind. When people honor kill their daughters, what are they doing? Why are they doing it for? Because they believe their daughters are spreading corruption in the earth, right? Spreading a bad example for Islam, making Islam look bad, making their family look bad, spreading corruption in the earth. In other words, this verse that a Muslim quoted to me to show that Islam condemns honor killings actually fits in very well with honor killings. And by the way, that just so you know, in context, that verse isn't even written for Muslims. It's the next verse of the Quran, Surah 533, which talks about waging war against Muhammad and spreading corruption in the earth. That's what you die for. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and briefly read it for you. The only reward of those who make war upon Allah and His Messenger and strive after corruption in the land, that's how you attack Allah and His Messenger, by making corruption in the land, will be that they are killed or crucified or have their hands and feet on alternate sides cut off, or they will be expelled from the land. That's what happens that's the penalty for spreading corruption in the land. Now, in context, this isn't even referring specifically towards honor killings. The point we're trying to make is, here you have a teaching saying if someone is spreading corruption in the land, you can kill them. In fact, that's what Allah wants you to do. And so if you go into a context where honor killings are a cultural practice, and just so everyone knows, just to clarify, honor killings predate Islam. Before there was any Islam, there were honor killings. But Islam moved into these areas, and instead of putting an end to the practice continued. Why? Well, as we're going to point out in several different ways on the program tonight, the honor killings fit very well with passages like that. You can kill people for spreading corruption in the land. Oh, you mean my daughter's getting out of line, spreading corruption in the land? Well, this says I can kill her. Now, CL.
Yes, sir.
When we think about other things that might contribute to this, give me an idea of what a woman is supposed to be like, or what a young girl is supposed to be like, or what a wife is supposed to be like in Islam. Is she supposed to have the freedom to go around doing what she wants, as lots of young girls in the West are doing?
Of course not. I mean, one of the clearest proofs is the very famous ayat from the Quran, which can be found in Surah Al-Nisa, verse 34. Everyone knows that men are the protectors and maintainers of women because Allah has made one of them to excel the other and because they spend to support them from their means. Therefore, the righteous women are devoutly obedient to Allah and their husbands. And that's in parentheses. That's added by the translator. But it's actually, therefore, the righteous women are devoutly obedient and guard in the husband's absence what Allah orders them to guard. So the clearest number one attribute of a Muslim woman is obedience to her male family members.
So if that's what a good woman does,
Yes.
then if you're not like that, if you're
Well, you're causing facade. You're causing fitna and facade. You're an evildoer.
you're bad.
Very bad.
Okay. So think about this, because if you have passages like we have in the Quran, which allow husbands to beat their wives for being rebellious, passages commanding wives in all kinds of ways to be just totally obedient to their husbands. If you're at the stove and your husband calls you, you come. You drop what you're doing, you come. If you're on a camel, you're riding on a camel, your husband calls you, you come, do what he says. This is what a good woman is. But a bad woman is someone who doesn't do that sort of thing. That's not commanding you to honor kill, but what we're saying is you have to have a pretty low view of women in order to go through with, in order to have honor killing as part of your culture. When Islam moves into a society, does Islam elevate the status of women? No. No, good women are these totally obedient people. They do anything their husband says. They never question. And that's exactly the attitude towards women we have in the cultures that allow honor killing.
And then just in case someone thinks, well, hey, that's just your take on the ayah, and you don't even know how to speak Arabic. What are you talking about? Is
I'm guessing you're going to a scholar now, a Muslim scholar.
Oh, yeah, a scholar. Tafsir al-Jalalain. Who can disagree? Tafsir al-Jalalain. This is authoritative at least among Sunnis, which are a majority of the Muslims in the world. Probably 80-85%. This is very authoritative. Jalalain knows what he's talking about when he gives his critique of ayat. On that ayat that I just read from Surah Nisa, number 34, the first sentence that Jalalain uses is, men are in charge of, they have authority over women, disciplining them and keeping them in check.
Keeping them in check. He sounds like he came right out of modern culture, man. Keep them in check. This is Tafsir Jalalain. Huh?
Yes. So again, just like we contrast the good woman, the bad woman. The bad woman who is the woman who does not stay in check.
You have to keep them in line somehow, right?
That's right.
Okay. So we have that now. One more question, CL. Because lots of Muslims point out, hey, Islam doesn't allow Islam doesn't allow killing. If you kill a Muslim, right, there's going to be retaliation. Am I right?
That's right.
If
you kill a Muslim.
Yeah. And just to go along with what he's saying, there are situations where there's not retaliation for killing someone. For instance, if a Muslim kills a non-Muslim, you don't get to kill the Muslim in retaliation for killing the non-Muslim. CL, is there any other situation that would be relevant to what we're talking about right now as far as no retaliation?
Well, there are several. Two real quick before I go to the one source I really wanted to get to. You have from you mentioned killing a Muslim. Now, just because you call yourself a Muslim and just because you go down to the masjid 5 times a day, are you necessarily a Muslim? What if I deem that you're not a Muslim anymore because of something you do or something you say, which we just discussed earlier, that, fitna in a land is worse than murder. Maybe you do something that nullifies your Islam and cancels out your Islam, even though everybody looks at you as a Muslim, you call yourself a Muslim, but you've done something to cancel out your Islam. Now, you can get killed, couldn't you? You don't have that protection like Muhammad said, that the Muslim, his blood and his honor and his life is protected by his shahada. You've nullified that shahada. But let's look over here. Everybody, I think, is mostly familiar with a very famous book of Shafi'i fiqh. Shafi'i, he was a great scholar. He was one of the 4 imams, four of the main schools of Islamic thought and Sunniism. One of the books that were written with certain fatwa rulings.
So for people who aren't familiar with these terms, it's a manual of Sharia, right?
Manual of
by
Sharia.
a very respected Muslim.
People have heard the term fatwa. Everybody's heard fatwa, which is basically a legal opinion in Sharia law, Islamic law. This book, Reliance on the Traveler, is basically a book, a encyclopedia of fatwas, an encyclopedia of different rulings on different topics. Under the topic of retaliation, who is subject to retaliation for injuries, injurious crimes? There's something profound. There's certain people who will, if these people kill someone under certain circumstances, there is no retaliation under Islamic law for that person. Number one, which is very interesting to me, a Jew or Christian subject to the Islamic State for killing an apostate from Islam. A Jew or Christian subject to the Islamic State for killing an apostate from Islam.
Now, in case, if anyone missed that, I mean, think about what this is saying. A Christian or a Jew who kills an apostate from Islam, right? Someone leaves Islam and goes to the Christian or Jewish community, they can kill the apostate from Islam and there's no retaliation. That's how low the view of apostates
exactly. That's
is.
what I was going to say.
That's how low the Muslim view of apostates is. If you've left, look, if you've left Islam and you're walking down the street, or a Jew or a Christian can come up and kill you. You don't even have to be a Muslim. A Jew or a Christian can come up and kill you.
You're at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Jews
right
and Christians
you
are
got
already
the
at the bottom.
Jews and Christians killing you. That's horrible.
But then there's another group of people who can kill people and get away with it, according to the Islamic law. A father or mother, or their fathers or mothers, meaning like grandparents, for killing their offspring or offspring's offspring.
Now, let me see if I've got this correct. If you're a Muslim, you can't go down the street and kill a Muslim.
No.
Right? There'll be retaliation. You'll be in trouble.
This haram, forbidden.
But if you're a parent and you kill your own offspring,
or your offspring's offspring.
Yeah, or your grandkids. So grandparents can kill their grandkids, not according to me, not according to Darwin, not according to CL, according to Sharia, there's no retaliation for killing your kids. Right?
Exactly. And that leads into what we're talking about. Is there something in Islamic law that says honor killing? Honor killing is halal. No. But when you put these different pieces together, what do I come away with? Mm-hmm. It must be okay. Yeah. It must be a sanction for this. Yeah.
And just so everyone knows, we've been looking at some of the kind of elements of Islam because we're wondering why, since Islam doesn't directly command kill children in the name of family honor, since Islam doesn't command that, why is it that this particular crime thrives in an Islamic context? We're looking at some of the ingredients here of Islam. In other words, if you want to think of it like a plant, why does this plant of honor killings grow in this particular soil? And we're seeing Islam has the sort of the fertilizer that would make this plant spring up. But we haven't even gotten to what I would regard as a fairly airtight defense of honor killings in Islam. We've looked at some reasons, you know, the low opinion of women in Islam, the attitude towards those who spread corruption in the land, what the penalty is under Sharia, what the retaliation would be for someone who kills their offspring. But I think we can actually make a clearer case than this. And I'll turn to CLCL. You know, what is the penalty in Islam for apostasy?
Whoever changes their religion, kill them. That was the words of Muhammad.
So, according to Muhammad, if you leave Islam, the penalty is praying for them?
No. You don't pray for them. They have to be put to death.
Now, you must be getting this from some weird source.
No, I'm getting this from the Sayyid, the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, think about that for a moment, right? Because you wouldn't regard these young girls who, are becoming too westernized. You wouldn't view them as apostates. Here in the West, we think of apostates as someone who says, I renounce Islam, Muhammad is not a prophet, the Quran is not the word of God, I convert to something else. That's what we think of as apostates. We're going to take a break now. We're going to come back in just a moment, and we're going to look at what Islam teaches about apostates. What do you have to do in Islam so that you no longer qualify as a Muslim? And it doesn't take anything as extreme as renouncing Islam. In Islam, you can do all kinds of things that put you outside the category of Muslim and into the apostate category. And as CL pointed out, the penalty is death. We're going to look at that in just a moment when we come back here on Jesus or Muhammad. Welcome back to Jesus or Muhammad. We just started introducing, unfolding what I would regard as, again, a pretty airtight case for honor killings. At least you get the same result as you have in honor killings. You have young girls or teenage girls or even grown women in some instances veering away from what the family wants them to do, and the end result is that they get killed. That's what happens in honor killings, but we're going to show that the same thing, according to Muhammad's teachings, should happen in Islam. CL, yes, you were mentioning the penalty for apostasy in Islam. For if anyone's tuning in right now, could you tell people what the penalty for apostasy is? And I want authoritative sources, not your own views and opinions.
Okay, I think this should be authoritative enough. Sahih Bukhari.
That's as authoritative as it gets, other than the Quran, right?
Yeah. Only thing above that is the Quran itself. Sahih Bukhari. Allah's messenger said,
that's Muhammad.
Yes, Muhammad. Whoever changed his Islamic religion, then kill him.
So not pray for them.
No.
Okay.
Whoever changed his Islamic religion, then kill him. That's a fatwa from the Big Sheikh. Now, would you like to hear the second one?
I'd like another one, yeah. I mean,
like
you got one. You got,
oh, well,
what is one? I mean,
one?
That's like the lowest number.
Also from Sahih Bukhari, from Allah's Messenger Muhammad, he said, the blood of a Muslim who confesses that La ilaha illallah, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that I am the messenger of Allah, cannot be shed except in 3 cases. 1.
So you can't kill a Muslim except in these 3 cases.
Exactly.
Okay.
Whoever says La ilaha illallah, they cannot be killed except for these 3 reasons. 1, life for life. In other words, they killed someone unjustly. Number 2, a married person who commits illegal sexual intercourse, adultery, fornication. Number 3, the one who turns renegade from Islam, apostate, and leaves the group of Muslims.
Well, now Muslims will think they've got us, right? You don't see girls becoming too westernized on that list, right? When it says, here are the only situations where you can kill a Muslim, life for life, so this Muslim has killed another Muslim, then you can kill him. Commits adultery, then you can kill him. Or leaves Islam, then you can kill him. Well, what do you do if a girl's just refusing to wear her hijab and she's becoming too westernized? That doesn't fit into that category, right? Wrong. And here we get to the main problem that we brought up before the break. Namely, in Islam, it is very, very, very easy to do something that will put you in that apostate category. And interestingly, after Muhammad died, Abu Bakr had to fight, they were called the apostate wars, because so many people were leaving Islam that he had to actually go out and fight wars to bring them back to Islam. Lots of people only became Muslims because they were scared of Muhammad to begin with. And so Muhammad died, they thought, aha, we're free. And Abu Bakr had to crack down on them, say, no, you don't get to apostatize. Yeah?
But hold on, you said they left Islam. So you're saying that they made a big announcement saying, I don't believe in Islam anymore. I'm done with this.
Well,
Muhammad's
that's
dead.
the interesting thing. If you read the Muslim sources, and we have plenty of records from this time, it was an entire spectrum. There were people who said, we are no longer Muslims. But there were all kinds of other people who just disagreed with certain practices. And Abu Bakr put them in the exact same category with the other Muslims who were rejecting Islam. Let me give you one example. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari, 7284. It's a very interesting situation where Abu Bakr says, I'm going to go fight these people because they're not giving zakat. They're not paying, they're not practicing one of the 5 pillars of Islam the way they're supposed to practice it, right? They want to give their charity to someone else, whereas they're supposed to give it to the caliphs, right? And let them figure out what they're going to do with it. So Umar, now notice, these two of Muhammad's closest companions and the first and second rightly guided caliphs. Umar objects, and he quotes what? He quotes Muhammad. Watch what he says. Umar said to Abu Bakr, how dare you fight the people, while Allah's messenger said, I have been ordered to fight the people till they say, La ilaha illallah, and whoever says La ilaha illallah saves his wealth and his life from me, unless he deserves a legal punishment justly, and his account will be with Allah. So Umar actually says, wait a minute. Muhammad said you only get to kill Muslims in these 3 situations, and here you're killing them because they don't give zakat properly. That wasn't on Muhammad's list. Watch what Abu Bakr says. Abu Bakr responds, by Allah, I will fight him who discriminates between zakat and salat, for zakat is the compulsory right to be taken from the wealth. By Allah, if they refuse to give me even a tying rope, which they used to give to Allah's messenger, I would fight them for withholding it. Now, if that's kind of jumbled up, this is what Abu Bakr is saying. He's saying, Muhammad himself said he would burn people alive for skipping their prayers, right? So Muhammad himself is saying, you've apostatized if you're not praying, right? You've just gone, according to Muhammad, you've gone into that apostate category. And Abu Bakr says, well, that's a pillar, just like giving zakat is a pillar of Islam. So if someone distinguishes and says, okay, well, as a Muslim, I have to do my prayers, or I'm not a Muslim, but I don't have to give zakat to the government as a Muslim, he says no. And he says, if you do not give zakat, and he says a rope, if you don't give a piece of rope to me that you used to give to Muhammad, I'm coming to kill you. Now, you Muslims should be terrified at that, because this is a rightly guided caliph. This is Muhammad's closest companion, and Umar, right after this, agreed with him and said, you're right. So what's he saying here? What's Muhammad's position? Why does he burn people who just don't show up for prayers? Why does Abu Bakr want to kill people for not following the 5 pillars the way they're supposed to? According to Muhammad and his rightly guided caliphs, if you veer away even slightly from the core teachings of Islam, you're an apostate. You don't have to say, oh, I reject Muhammad. Oh, I reject Islam. They didn't do that. These people that Abu Bakr was coming to kill didn't do any of that. Those people that Muhammad wanted to burn in their houses as apostates, they just didn't show up for prayer. These guys just weren't going to give, he said, even a piece of rope, I will come and kill you. So think about this. If you've got a daughter, teenage daughter, she's not going to the mosque, she's not acting like a Muslim, she's hanging out with her friends, has she met the requirements of an apostate? Yeah, you had to veer this much from correct Islam, according to Abu Bakr and according to Muhammad, to put yourself in that apostate category. These young Muslims living in the West, thoroughly westernized, they do not qualify as Muslims anymore. They are outside the category. And again, we don't have that perspective here in the West. We think, well, as long as you say you believe in Muhammad and you say you believe in the Quran, then you're in the Muslim category. That's true from our perspective, because that's how we think of Muslims or of Christians or of any religion. You say you believe in it, okay. But we are not the judges of what qualifies as a Muslim in Islam. Muhammad and his companions, they get to define what a Muslim is. And according to them, all these young Muslims out here who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, they're actually in the apostate category. And what was the penalty for apostasy?
Death.
Interesting. You wanted to add something?
Oh, yes, I do. Now, we're dealing with primary sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody might say, you're not a scholar. You're not a scholar. So that's just your opinion, and you're not handling the sources correctly. You don't know how to, like we will say as Christians, rightly divide the word.
I feel another scholar coming on.
Another scholar, yes. Now I have something here from Sheikh bin Baz. Sheikh bin Baz, a little biography. He was the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia before the current Grand Mufti. He died in towards the late 90s. He was the founder of Medina University. A big sheikh. So he knows what he's talking about. He wrote something called The Nullifiers of Islam. Do you know what some of the things that can nullify your Islam?
Well, only one thing, like renouncing Islam and saying you're no longer a Muslim.
No, right? Yes, but that has qualifiers on it also.
Okay.
I guarantee you there are Muslims watching this program right now who have nullified their Islam, according to Sheikh bin Baz. One of the things that can nullify your Islam is this. Whoever believes that some guidance other than the guidance of Muhammad is more complete than his guidance, and someone else's judgment is better than his judgment. That's one thing that nullifies your Islam. Also, whoever hates something that the messenger came with, even though he acts on it. Did you hear what I just said? He acts on it, but you don't like it. You've nullified your Islam. Whoever mocks or ridicules any part of the messenger's religion or its rewards or its punishments has committed an act of disbelief. Now, again, I just said Muslims. How many of your family members, how many of you have done one of these things before? I guarantee you know someone has done this. You know someone who's nullified their Islam and who deserves death under Sharia law.
What about what sort of things would qualify as shirk? Do you have to actually bow down to an idol?
You don't have to actually bow down to an idol. The Quran talks about something called a tawhut, right? Tawhut is the false systems, the idols, the false lawmakers, because Allah is supposed to be the only lawmaker. But let's say you come to the United States of America. The United States of America is a democracy. We have democratic laws. You create laws. You have the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, blah, 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 blah. These are man-made laws. If you believe those are good laws, you believe, you know what, they should have those laws over in Saudi Arabia. They should have that over in Jordan. You think they're as good as what's in the Quran and the Sunnah. You think it's better than what's in the Quran and the Sunnah. You committed shirk. Because you just made the legislative body who created those laws lawmakers along with Allah. And shirk means what? Shirk means making a partner with Allah. So you've made them a partner with Allah in lawmaking.
So needless to say, Muslims who live in the West and aren't severely devout, they're doing all kinds of things that would qualify as shirk probably, right?
Exactly.
And they're doing all kinds of things that would put them in that apostate category, right?
Yes.
All right, and now step 3. Think about what we've covered so far. What's the penalty for apostasy in Islam? Death. What do you have to do to become an apostate? Not much. Not much. You don't have to do much in Islam to enter that apostate category. But, someone will say, you don't carry out the penalties against your sons and daughters, right? You don't have a command in Islam to go kill your daughters, right? Maybe the government, maybe an Islamic government might do that sort of thing, but you know, families don't do that.
As if that makes it better.
Yeah. We really spend a lot of time educating Muslims about Islam on this show because we find that Muslims just don't know what their religion teaches. And so let me tell you what your prophet said. This is Sunan Ibn Majah, number 2540. The Messenger of Allah said, carry out the legal punishments on relatives and strangers, and do not let the fear of blame stop you from carrying out the command of Allah. I'll read that one more time because I think it ties everything we've talked about together. Carry out the legal punishments. So if there's a punishment for something, you carry it out against who? Against relatives and strangers. And do not let the fear of blame, don't be afraid of what might happen to you. Don't be afraid of people criticizing you or condemning you because of what you've done. You worry about what Allah commands you to do. Do not let the fear of blame stop you from carrying out the command of Allah. Now, what's the penalty? It's three steps. It's crystal clear. There's no way around it. There's no way around it because this is what Islam teaches. The penalty for apostasy in Islam is death. You become an apostate by doing all kinds of things that teenage girls do. And Muslims are commanded to carry out the punishment, in this case, killing, because of apostasy. Muslims are commanded to carry out Allah's punishments even against their family members. So, this isn't exactly an honor killing. Again, honor killings were a cultural practice that come before Islam, but the cause and the effect are the same, which is why this practice flourishes in Islam. Under an honor killing, under the honor killing system, which predates Islam, you have a girl who has dishonored her family in some way. She has walked down the street with a boy, for instance, and this has brought shame on her family. Well, you restore the honor of your family by putting her to death. Islam doesn't command that exactly, as we've agreed to. But look at the exact same cause and the exact same effect. The cause is teenage girl doing something that's out of line with Islam. So once Islam moves into the area, now what dishonors the family, what brings shame to the family, is the girl's not following Islam as she should. And then what happens? She doesn't follow Islam. Guess what? According to Islam, she's not following Islam as she should. She's now an apostate. What's the penalty? Death. What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to say, no, but she's my daughter, so I need to look the other way? No, you're supposed to carry out Allah's punishments and not care at all what other people think about it. And that's what we've seen the Shafia family do recently. They said their daughters dishonored Islam and they killed them. The only part they got wrong here, according to Islam, is they did seem to care what other people thought about them, instead of just standing up and saying, yeah, we did it and we're right. So they're not quite on the right track, but they've got a lot of the basic steps in here. So that's what happened with the Shafia family. And now we're going to turn to an interview, but very briefly we're going to take a caller. Do we still have Jabari on the line? Okay, we'll take a call from Jabari. Jabari, I hope it has to do with honor killings, and you're not going to send us off on a tangent of some questions you've been wondering about for the past couple weeks.
All right.
Hey, you there, buddy?
Yes, I am. It's glad to have you guys back on the show. I just have a few questions. First, you said that one of the policemen in Dearborn said that they found out about a lot of honor killings, and I just wanted you to comment on that. Secondly, is there an instance where the mother has performed honor killings on a son because he's dishonored the family and things like that? And lastly, can I pray that you guys will pray that the Holy Spirit will empower you guys to show agape love for everybody as Christ Jesus commands us? Thank you. Oh, and by the way, it's good to see you, Darwin, and it's great to see you again. CL Edwards. God bless.
All right, Jabari. Yes, we certainly hope you'll pray for us. We hope everyone out there will pray for us. Jabari mentioned two issues. One, he asked about the police in Dearborn. For those not familiar with this situation, it's actually part of a legal case going on in the city of Dearborn when we were thrown in jail for talking to Muslims at the Arab Festival in 2010, I think. when we went to the jail, some of the police officers were obviously trying to teach us a lesson, right? Like they wanted to make us miserable. But not all of the police officers were happy with what was going on. Some of the police officers were pretty upset that we were being taken to jail when everyone there knew what we were being taken to jail for. They invented this story later on. We were harassing people and so on, but we had cameras. And we showed what actually happened, and we were victorious in court. But probably the most disturbing thing that happened that day wasn't me getting thrown in jail or Nabil or anyone else getting thrown in jail. Probably the most disturbing thing that happened that day was when we were in the jail. He didn't talk to me, but he talked to Nabil and Paul. One of the officers there was agreeing that there was a massive problem in the police department. And he said that there were honor crimes, girls getting their throats slit or even beheaded. And the police department would keep it quiet, would keep it from getting to the media. Now, that's what an officer said. I can't verify this in any other way, except I have talked to some people in Dearborn who verified that there are these honor crimes that they just never hear about in the media. And I'm sure if you talk to some people from Dearborn, they can verify there are some bad things going on that just don't make it to the light of day. But yes, according to a police officer who really had no reason to make this up, the Dearborn Police Department is making sure that certain crimes never reach the media, because Dearborn would get an even worse reputation than it has if we knew that parents were abusing their daughters in this way or even killing their daughters in this way. Jabari's other question was, have there been situations where mothers kill sons? I can't comment on anything directly without looking into it, but I have heard of sons being killed in honor killings. It's much more rare. It's much more rare because it didn't mesh as well with Islam. In other words, you had the practice, but the practice was the cultural practice in honor killings was generally it's the girls who do the dishonoring of the family by getting out of line somehow. And when Islam enters that, there never was much of a problem with killing the sons to begin with. But it does happen. It does happen that the killing of sons, that's still a minority. But yeah, it does happen. It's just much more rare. All right, now...
And before we go any further, David, and also, I just want to state a certain question, because I run across a lot of Muslims and non-Muslims who I encounter via internet through Flint Urban Culture. And one of the things that I really stand for is culture change. Mm-hmm. And a lot of information has come forth today, and I really commend both of you for really laying out the truth and laying out a solid foundation of really what the Quran actually teaches, because it's a lot of individuals who are not informed upon this. But when you talk about it being a cultural issue, is this something we can take a passive attitude towards? Is this something we could sit back and it's going to just stay over in its corner and we can stay over in ours and it's going to, not bother us in any type of way? Is this something that we have to stand against, or is it something that we can just, be completely liberal towards?
Well, I'd say that this is one of the most important questions facing Western civilization right now, because there has been this surge for the past couple of centuries in relativism, right?
Correct.
There's been a surge more recently in multiculturalism.
Correct.
Right? You have, and for those who don't really know what multiculturalism is, back, say, 150 years ago, if you were, say, coming to the United States, it was understood that when you came to the United States, you were going to adopt a United States culture. You're going to adopt an American culture.
Correct.
You might still have the holidays that you practiced in wherever you came from, but it's called the melting pot. In other words, everyone gets melted together into one culture. People can still retain some cultural identity from other places, but overall there is a uniformity of culture. More recently, the focus has been on multiculturalism. And the idea is that when someone comes from somewhere else with their culture, it would be wrong to assimilate them to our culture, because then you'd be destroying their culture, right? They had a culture. If they adopt yours, now theirs has been destroyed, and that's just wrong, right? And this makes so much sense to someone, and there's something about it that's right? Being tolerant towards other cultures.
Correct.
But then now we're facing now we're facing some major issues, namely some of these cultures have practices that are so reprehensible. How are we possibly going to say your culture is just as good, that cultural practice is just as good as any other cultural practice? Because if the multiculturalism is correct, if the relativism, what's right for me is different from what's right for you, if we really believe that wholeheartedly, then we have to say that a culture that protects their daughters is no better than a culture which murders its daughters for dishonoring their family. And can we really say that? That's why I said this is the central question of our age. Can we really say that? If you can't say it, then multiculturalism has failed. You have to say there are issues where we can honestly say our culture is better than that one. Maybe not in every way, and other cultures might be better than ours in some way, but on this issue we're not equal. It's not the same. You can't live alongside our culture and still continue that practice. So if we say, so there are only two things we can do. One, we can say, no, that cultural practice is wrong, and we don't care how much you like it.
Correct.
Or we can say, nope, too bad, we're multiculturalists and we're relativists, and if that's what they want to do, then we just can't interfere. And at that point, we have absolutely surrendered any right to say anything. Because, I mean, if you're gonna do that, then, I mean, come on, people can start eating other people, and, I mean, what are you going to do? It's not wrong, right?
And according to what you and actually CEO has actually brung up today, would it be truly a threat? I mean, from what I actually just heard, it definitely would be.
No, of course it would be a threat. For instance, let's say a person was to meet one of these young ladies, and you don't think anything of it. You start dating them, right?
Correct.
Well, here I'm jealous, angry Muslim dad here, and my daughter has disgraced me and my family, and you're dating her, and I catch you at the sock hop somewhere, dating her somewhere. Yeah. Well, I'm coming to get her, and I'm coming to get you too. And that's happened, actually. Here in Michigan, in Dearborn, I remember almost a decade before, an instance like this. A guy was dating a Muslim girl, and her uncle ran him over with his Jeep while he was on a motorcycle.
Correct.
So, I mean, we're a people of laws, right? This is a
Correct.
Judeo-Christian culture. We have laws. You can't just do what you want to do. I can't get mad at you and kill you because I'm mad at you. So we can't say, well, this is just a cultural thing. This is how we did it back home. No, we can't allow stuff like that to happen. You come here, you got to obey the laws, and you got to assimilate into what we consider to be normal.
So is this something that could be separated from Islam, these practices from the Quran? Is it something that we could just say, hey, okay, well, it's okay to be Muslim, and, do you think they will lay down those practices?
It depends. Anytime you have, I'd say, a religious group, you're going to have a spectrum. You're going to have those who take it very seriously. You're going to have those who don't take it seriously at all, and you're going to have everyone in between. Now, with, let's say, Christianity, if you have someone who takes Christianity very seriously, right?
Yes.
What's that sort of person going to do? Well, I have to love everyone. I have to be willing to lay my life down for for anyone. I mean, this is the sort of thing that you would have to do if you were a really devout Christian. In other words, if we're talking about the spectrum of Christians, I'm more worried about the Christians who don't take it very seriously. And people, in that category might use Christianity to their own ends. Correct. When they really don't believe. But in Islam, the more you believe, the more you're going to take Muhammad's teaching seriously. The more seriously you're going to take, kill apostates, or here's what you need to do to become an apostate, or Muhammad said, carry out the penalties of Allah even against your own family members. And so when we ask ourselves, can Muslims just leave this aside? Yes, but according to Muhammad, not according to me, they're no longer Muslims.
Correct.
If the Muslims say, hey, I don't care about these teachings about killing apostates, and I care more about, the Constitution and, the First Amendment, those are the things I care about, you just committed shirk in like 8 different ways. So what we're asking ourselves is, can Muslims water down Islam? And the answer is yes, but according to Islam, it's no longer Islam. Correct. We might call it Islam if you still, say you believe in Muhammad or something like that. But according to Islam, it's not Islam. Now, we have a couple of callers. I think we have some Muslims on the line. Who do we have first? Mahmoud. Hello, Mahmoud. Do you hear us?
Yeah. How are you, first?
Good. Welcome to Jesus or Muhammad. Are you a Christian or a Muslim or something else?
No, I'm Mahmoud. I'm Muslim from Egypt, and I came here 2 months ago to America to study. And I'm really very happy by this program because I didn't see it before in Egypt, in my country. And I have a small statement,
Okay.
There are a background, and you're I'm trying to explain it in English, in your back. It's called Jesus or Muhammad, okay? So there are 3 men now talk about Christianity, and no one talk about Muhammad. So you have to invite someone Muslim to talk about Muhammad and reply and give you useful information. And then you invite someone he was Christian, and now he was Muslim, and now he is Christian. How come if I want to know information about Christianity, I invite someone if I need more information about Christianity, how come I invite someone he was Christian and now he is Muslim? So he gonna give me wrong information. He talk and he give us useful information and big details, but his conversation include a lot of mistakes. Like in Egypt, if you talk about revolution and say people kill each other and people fight with police, so you talk about people fight with each other and you don't talk about revolution. It's not fair. So you have to invite. I can help you to invite someone to talk about Islam in your program. It will be benefit for you.
Mahmoud, I'll let you finish, but I just want to say, what are we doing right now? Why do we open the phone lines? We open the phone lines so that Muslims like you can call in and share your views. We also have debate night where we regularly have, in fact, last night on this station, there was a debate between a Christian and a Muslim giving their perspectives on the crucifixion of Jesus. We do this regularly at ABN. So we do have, but I mean, at the end of the day, this is a Christian network, so we are going to share the gospel, and we are critical of Islam, but far more than you will ever see from an Islamic channel. We invite people to come on and disagree with us and criticize us and attempt to present evidence that we're wrong. Again, on the Muslim programs I watch, I almost never see this sort of thing. But go ahead and continue.
Okay, I have there are some many things I can understand from your accent. So I have another statement. Can I say it?
Sure, but we have a lot of other callers that we have to get to, so try to make it brief, please.
Okay, I'm going to say it quickly. The man behind you, he talked about Islam, and he thought if you do something wrong, what we going to judge you? So can he talk in Islam? He was Muslim, so he can talk. If you're going to do something good in Islam, what Allah going to do for you? If you have information, just let the people know it, please. And finally, I'm very happy with your program, and I hope to invite someone Muslim to talk with you and give you more information about Islam. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to hearing from him. Did you want to add anything?
Just to add on to what you said, we've been talking about Muhammad all day long.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it. I mean, we could sit here and say, this is what Islam teaches all day long, but what do? Do we ever just say, this is what Islam teaches?
No, we're quoting from primary sources. We're quoting from the Quran, we're quoting from the Sunnah, and we're quoting from the ulama, what they say what these ayat and hadith mean. So it's not like I sat here and said, well, I think this, the third. I said what Sheikh bin Baz said. You know, so if you don't like what Sheikh bin Baz said, then you must have a problem with Islam itself. Because if he doesn't know what he's talking about, then who does know what he's talking about?
Yeah, and I mean, that's just interesting because if our friend gets a Muslim on the show to disagree with what we've said tonight, he's disagreeing with Muhammad and the Quran and Abu Bakr and Umar, and why as a Muslim would you be doing that?
Plus, just one thing I want to say, you make an assumption that just because someone is Christian, that automatically means they're not going to quote the source correctly, or they're going to twist something, or they're going to add something to it. That doesn't automatically mean, just because I'm a Christian, that doesn't mean I'm not going to quote the Quran exactly verbatim what it says.
Yeah, we believe in truth. We don't believe that Islam is the truth. But as people who believe in the truth, we want to accurately represent what Islam teaches so that we can then refute it. We don't misrepresent what Islam teaches, at least not deliberately. If you know where we've gone astray, please, I invite any Muslim on the planet to show us where we've gone astray. But we certainly would never do so intentionally. And I have to say there's a big difference from a lot of the Muslim apologists I've seen, like Ahmed Deedat and Zakir Naik, who can't seem to say virtually anything accurate about Christianity. It's constant misrepresentation and distortion. Why? Because even the Quran distorts Christianity when it talks about Christianity.
Correct.
Very interesting how your beliefs can influence your behavior. We have to go to a break right now. We'll come back with more in just a moment here on Jesus or Muhammad. Muhammad, if you're just tuning in, we've been discussing honor killings in Islam, and we've laid out a very careful, very airtight case for why this practice of honor killings thrives in Islam when it doesn't thrive in any other system. And we've seen that Islam calls for the killing of apostates. The penalty for apostasy in Islam is death. We've seen that Western Muslims who are living as Westerners, qualify as apostates in many different ways. And we've seen that Muhammad commanded his followers to carry out Allah's punishments even against their own family members. Now, if you are supposed to carry out a punishment against your own family, including your daughters, and the penalty is death because they've fallen into the apostate category by the way they're living and by living Western lives, why are we having this discussion? It's pretty obvious why this practice of honor killings fits so well into the teachings of Islam. Well, we've been talking about honor killings in general. We mentioned the Shafi'a killings briefly, but now we want to kind of zero in on a particular honor killing. Just last year, a beautiful young girl named Jessica Mokdad was killed in Michigan. She was, I think, born in Dearborn. She moved around, moved back and forth between family members, and was ultimately killed by her stepfather. And Pamela Geller of Atlas Shrugs has named an upcoming human rights conference in honor of Jessica. And I think we have Pamela on Skype. Do we have her? Pamela, do you hear us?
I do hear you.
Hi, how's it going?
Okay, how are you, David?
We're doing good here. We've been through a ton of passages from the Quran, the Hadith, Muhammad calling for oppression of women, calling for families to carry out Allah's punishments against their own family members, commanding Muslims to kill those who spread corruption in the land, which many Muslims would view leaving the principles of Islam as spreading corruption in the land. So we've covered all the ground as far as why this practice would do well in an Islamic context when pretty much any other context would see the tremendous problem here, because I mean, this is something where it just goes against human nature in so many ways. I mean, if someone steals a car, I will say, look, you're wrong for stealing that car, but I understand kind of why you stole the car, because human beings want to accumulate stuff. I understand that. I don't agree with what you did, but I understand why you wanted the car. And when we get to honor killings, this is something where it just goes against human nature. Our nature is to protect our children. CL, I mean, if someone is aiming a gun at your kid and you could jump in the way and take the bullet, would you have to think twice?
I wouldn't. It would be automatic.
Automatic response, protect the child, and yet we have this this obscene practice of actually murdering children. Pamela, of all the things you could be doing with your life, why do you want to focus on doing something about this issue?
Well, because I love life and I cherish my freedom. And yes, I salute you for citing chapter and verse, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of girls who have been slaughtered under this practice, a practice that we know is sanctioned under the Sharia. As you know, in Muslim countries, there is a reduced, many times a more lenient sentence in the protection of the family honor. It is a cultural, it is absolutely a cultural phenomena. But the culture is, in over 90% of the cases, according to a study at the Middle East Quarterly, Islamic. And I am deeply concerned with the increase in honor killings in the West, the spike in honor killings, and the accompanying Sharia silence on the honor killings. I know that you're involved in a lawsuit against Dearborn law enforcement for covering up honor killings. We have seen repeatedly the media refusing to identify it, refusing to cover it, in the case of Amina and Sarah Saeed, in the case of Nur al-Maliki, in the case of Asiya Hassan. It's a very dangerous trend. Fatima Abdullah, a Muslim woman in Florida, was honor killed. And the law enforcement and medical examiner's office in Tampa, Hillsborough, classified her murder as a suicide, according to my informant in the medical examiner's office, because they didn't want to inflame the Muslim community. So it's okay to murder so long as we don't upset the Muslim community. This is America. This is unacceptable, and I believe that if the American people had any clue that this was going on right under their noses, they would never, ever tolerate or stand for it or allow this cultural jihad, which is why I've organized, along with Robert Spencer and you, thank you very much, the Jessica Mokdad Human Rights Conference, directly pertaining to honor killings. And yes, I did name it after Jessica Mokdad. And what's interesting is that you're seeing the very thing that I am trying to point to and increase awareness of going on in the brouhaha that has ensued after I began organizing this conference. Many members of the family, Jessica Mokdad's family, the same family that was responsible, co-conspirators in her murder, co-conspirators in her execution, pitching a fit in the Protect Islam mode. That's the mode that they're in, the Protect Islam mode. When we know that this woman, this young woman, Jessica Mokdad, lived a life of abject terror, lived in a homemade concentration camp. The people that are speaking for her had little to do with her when she was alive, was disliked by her when she was alive. And yet now that she's dead, they run her Facebook pages, which is rife with anti-Semitism, racism, particularly her stepmother, who she had little to do with. But we have to call attention to this, because if your silence is sanction. And the reason why I chose Dearborn, I don't know if you're aware of the circumstances of how we got to Dearborn, Michigan, but I was supposed to speak late last year in Sugarland, Texas at the Hyatt, and they received a couple of threatening calls, as is the way of supremacists, and the Hyatt canceled the event. They canceled the event that night, and there was a big ensuing brouhaha. Many, many people called, people sold their stock. They received thousands of phone calls, and they were very generous, I have to say. They apologized and offered me equivalent space for free anywhere in America. And I chose Dearborn because I thought it was appropriate, particularly on the anniversary of Jessica Mokdad's death. And it's also interesting, there are so many things going on here, considering that, you know, my organization sued SMART, the transit authority in Dearborn, because they would not run my Leaving Islam safe house ads. I ran pro-freedom ads on the buses. They had been run across the country. And it basically was just, leaving Islam? Is your family threatening you? Is there a fatwa on your head? I mean, does that not scream Jessica Mokdad? I sued, along with David Yerushalmi, Robert Muse, the SMART, the city, and of course I won. And of course, when I did win, the ads were supposed to go up. They didn't. And the week that they were supposed to go up and the city refused was the week that she was Anna murdered. And I do see something terrible about that. Who's to say she wouldn't have seen an ad, called a number, gotten to a safe house? You don't know. And it's interesting, the city refused. They wanted an injunction, as if the judge was going to reverse herself a week later. Still, the ads have not run. We will be pursuing it, and I will, at this point, be looking for punitive damages, because they've had my money this whole time, by the way. But there's something very scary going on in America, a country defined by freedom. The founding principle of this of the American experiment, of the idea of America, is individual rights. And everything noble and brilliant and magnificent that we achieved was a fidelity to that very principle, and we are violating it. And these girls have to be given a shot. They have to have a place to go. And it's harder for them. It's harder for them than, let's say, domestic, spousal abuse. Woman has to get away from her husband. But in many cases, with these girls, they not only have to get away from the abuser, could be the father, the brother, but they have to get away from the family, because many times the mothers are co-conspirators. You saw that with the case, the Shafia case that you were discussing. And if that wasn't bad enough, they sometimes have to get away from the community and the mosque, as in the case with Rifka Barry, the Christian convert out of Islam. It was her mosque that ratted her out. She had been a Christian. She had converted out of Islam years prior, but knew that if her family or parents knew that her life would be in danger, and kept quiet. Hamas,
Pamela.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a quick a question that sort of tied those elements together, because you have the Rifka Berry issue, you have the media bias, and then you have the honor killings. You know firsthand that Rifka left home and was trashed by the media because she said that her father was going to kill her and had threatened to kill her over leaving Islam.
Yeah,
and her name was dragged through the mud, not just by Muslims, by the media. And your name was dragged through the mud just for saying, hey, we need to be on the safe side here and make sure that this girl is protected. We all saw that. That's what happened when a girl fled home in order to avoid being killed. Now, think about the Shafia killing. If those girls had found out what was about to happen, if they'd overheard a conversation the day before they were killed and had fled home and run from Canada to the United States to avoid being killed by their parents, how do you think the media would have reacted to these girls, who we know were actually honor killed, if they had somehow escaped with their lives and said, oh, our families were going to kill us, that's why we ran? How do you think the media would have responded to them?
The media's treatment of Rifka Barry was criminal. They defamed her, they smeared her, they libeled her. This 17-year-old straight-A student, really the quintessential good girl, called her a radical Christian fundamentalist. What does that mean? I mean, that you can say. You can say radical Christian fundamentalist. You can't say, Muslim fundamentalist. I've yet to see a Christian killing in the name of Christ. I've yet to see that. But they destroyed this girl, and not only was well, I'm used to it, so I've come to expect it and sort of revel in it at this point. I know I'm catching flack, I'm over the target kind of thing. But I was sued by her parents' Muslim attorney for defamation, a $10 million lawsuit. 2 years that lawsuit went on. That was six-figure lawsuit, and if it wasn't for the pro bono work of David Yerushalmi and Robert Muse, I don't know what would have happened. This is litigation jihad. This is lawfare. This is how they shut people up. But to your point, you're 100% right, David. These girls who did reach out, just like Amina and Sarah Saeed went to their teachers. These girls went to law enforcement. There is absolutely no network, no safety net, nothing, nowhere for these girls to go. They would have been trashed. Absolutely would have been trashed. But there was one particular reporter in this Orlando Sentinel that would describe Rivka at the hearings, this tiny girl, she was about 80 pounds, that she was wearing dark red nail polish and blush.
And don't forget the doting father.
Oh, yes, the doting father. Yes, the loving
And I mean, think about it. Wouldn't that have been the exact same response if the Shafia girls had run away? Wouldn't all this evidence have come out? No, this father, look at all he's done for his daughters. Look at the things he's bought them. Look how he's cared for them. There's no way this guy would ever do anything.
They made up a whole narrative, a fictional narrative about Rivka Barry's father, that she had they came to America because she had lost her eye and they came for medical treatment. What they don't tell you, they lied about how she lost her eye. Her brother had accidentally, had been, I don't know what he was doing, but he threw an airplane at her eye and she lost her eye. He never had it treated because we raised money if she wanted to have a glass eye put in. He didn't even do that. He didn't do a minimal cosmetic repair. The media made up a whole fiction. Even when ABC was interviewing Rivka Barry's parents, they placed a picture of her in her cheerleading outfit next to them, on the table next to the couch. Meanwhile, according to Rivka, they never saw her in her cheerleading outfit. She would leave the house in big sweats, pants, and a sweatshirt, and then she would change. But here you have ABC actually constructing a false narrative, and then you heard people say, well, look, she was a cheerleader. Her parents didn't care about that, so it doesn't ring true. This is how deceptive. Listen, it's sinister. There's just no question about it. The lengths that the media is going to, even, it's worse than silence when you start constructing a narrative that's completely and utterly false.
Yeah. Now, it seems that the way things stand now, in other words, how the world is responding to honor killings now is, if you haven't been killed yet, we're not going to take it seriously at all. You can complain. You can run away. We will go after you. There is no such practice in Islam. How dare you accuse your parents, or how dare you accuse the Muslim community of planning this? So the only way anyone is going to take the crime seriously is if you're already dead. So the only way for anyone to think, yeah, your parents are actually going to honor kill you, is if they've already done it. That's the only way that we will take some of these girls seriously. And even in some situations, as you pointed out, you could be honor killed and people will still say it wasn't honor killing, it was a suicide. So this is where things stand right now. And I think the point we want everyone to get is this is unacceptable. We can't be in a situation where the only way we'll help you is if you're already dead, and then we'll just make sure people know how you were killed. There are thousands of these girls being killed every year around the world, and right now the only thing we're doing is cleaning up after they're killed. Before that, there is no help. And that's what you're trying to change, isn't it?
Yeah, they're covering up. And I congratulate Canada on taking a very aggressive and vocal position on the Shafia killings. We don't see that. We haven't seen that in America. It's the reason why we named the conference after Jessica Moak's dad, as part of our ongoing campaign to raise awareness and bring a stop to this phenomena here in the West. These girls have rights. And they're human beings, and we have to stand for them. We have to stand with them. They're our daughters. They're our sisters. They're our moms. This is not who we are as a people. We don't sanction this, and it has to stop. And I believe that if people knew about it, that things would absolutely change. Part of the problem is this disinformation campaign by the media, and they're self-enforcing the Sharia. And we see this even, you know, the New York Times ad that I ran that was denied, that was rejected. That was the New York Times. It mimicked an anti-Catholic ad that did run, but they wouldn't run mine. Exactly the same, but I just supplanted I just flipped the text with Islamic references. This is self-enforcing Sharia. You are disarming the people. So when people say, oh, we don't need Sharia laws, you know, because we're protected against the Sharia. No, you're not. It's happening all around you. In the restriction of free speech, in hate crime, which is basically thought crime, and in sanctioning murder and covering up for murder. That is gender. It's gendercide. It's gender apartheid. It's completely and utterly unacceptable, and we must be vigilant, and we must take a fierce stand. And I'm glad that the Jessica Mogdad conference is getting publicity. Of course it's going to be negative publicity. I mean, let's get real. But I don't mind getting an opportunity to go on, even if the reporter is couching it or framing it in a fallacious narrative, and you have family members who are lying, bald-faced liars, and they know it. And so they're complicit. I consider them accomplices. But at least I have an opportunity to get on, because what I'm saying is the truth. And if people hear the truth, they know it, they recognize it, they kind of it's like they snap out of it, And that's why I think this conference will be a good thing. I don't know if there's going to be a big opposition protest. I have heard some things. I don't know what they're opposing. They're opposing our work to save Muslim girls. What are they opposing? Are they out there in support of the death penalty for converts out of Islam? Are they out there, intimidating, bullying, threatening us so that, making the world unsafe for Sharia? I wonder what it is that they're out there and what it is that they're opposing. I'm fighting for Muslim girls. Why aren't they? Why aren't we on the same team? Why isn't the family?
That's actually, I mean, to me, that is one of the most disturbing. I mean, other than the actual honor killings, which are probably the most disturbing thing, and maybe the media bias, which works right into the hands of continuing this practice. Other than that, the most disturbing thing about all of this is we know that thousands of girls are killed in these killings each year. A conservative estimate is around 5,000. Some would say it must be many more than that. But let's just say there are 5,000. Here you come along and say, let's try to save some of the next 5,000. We won't be able to save them all because some of them are in villages where we have no access to, but maybe we can save some of them, and that's enough to get you labeled a hate-mongering Islamophobe. Calling for the protection of mostly Muslim girls makes you an Islamophobic bigot, and I guess the opposite would also be the case if you don't do anything about this, if you ignore the problem and just allow thousands of these girls to die each year. That's what makes you tolerant. Is that about right?
That's exactly right. And of course, the 5,000, just so that you know, is a ridiculous number. It's generated by the UN. The UN is driven by the Organization of Islamic Conference, the largest bloc of countries at the UN, actually the largest bloc of countries, 56 plus the Palestinian, the alleged territories. And they vote as one bloc. And that's why you never see resolutions against Sharia and, Sudan and Syria and so on and so forth, but only against the only free society in the Middle East, of course, Israel, because of the jihad against the Jews in Islam, you know, Islamic anti-Semitism, which is mandated, it's commanded. So that number, that 5,000, just so that you know, is ridiculously low. And you're right, there are things, I don't know how many bodies are buried under the porches in Pakistan. One can only imagine. But can we start saving lives here in America? I mean, can we set the bar that low? Can we do that? Apparently not. And I'll tell you what Islamophobia is. I'll tell you what Islamophobia is. Islamophobia is the New York Times refusing to run my ad out of fear of Islam. That is Islamophobia. Me saving Muslim girls makes me a racist, Islamophobic, anti-Muslim bigot. This is how twisted the world is. And I really believe that our voices are increasingly silenced, so people don't hear the rational argument. Forget about partisanship and whatever religious denomination you are. It's completely and utterly irrelevant. This is a life and death struggle. This is a struggle between individualism and collectivism. Individualism versus totalitarianism. There is no unique soul under Islam. This is a fight for individual rights. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you worship a stone. Just don't stone me with it. This is what we're fighting for here. We're fighting for individual rights. These girls have as much right to their life and their pursuit of happiness as CARE has, Muslim Brotherhood group Hamas-tied CARE has, to try and impose its agenda, its supremacist agenda, its Islamic imperialism here in America. Now, I would never try and shut them up. I wouldn't. Because that's a free society. We protect all ideas, even ideas we don't like. That's what free speech is. Protects all ideas. But I know that I will win because my ideas are better. I know that I'm right. But if people don't have the opportunity to hear, if they're only hearing the Muslim Brotherhood group's propaganda and then the media, you know, packaging this steaming pile of dung in this beautiful package with a red ribbon, they're not going to know. When you have NBC News naming the ground zero Musketeer, Sharif al-Gamal, who defaulted on not one, but 2 bank loans, $250,000, who didn't pay his taxes, $250,000, who hasn't paid his rent, Con Ed is trying to evict him, who has a rap sheet a mile long, who beats people up, who has a rap sheet with prostitutes, but is named NBC Man of the Year because he wanted to build a 15-story mega mosque in a building that was destroyed in the 9/11 attacks. That is a morally sick imperative. That's a sickness. This is what the people are spoon-fed every single day. We are told that our soldiers are killed, but, you know, that was because somebody burned a Quran. What? I mean, what? Snap out of it. Something has happened where they say that there is freedom of speech when, in fact, people can't get my site at work. You know, the filtering systems. I don't know if they can get answering Muslims. I don't know how that works with you, but I know Robert as well. You can get us from home. Difficult to get us, at work. We, Imam Rauf, the Ground Zero Mosque, the radical who advocates for the Sharia, he gets $15K a speech, and he's speaking. He's on an Ivy League tour across the country. Reza Aslan, a Khomeiniist, pro-Iran, nuclear Iran. But is Ibn Waraq asked to speak? Is Wafa Sultan asked to speak? Simon Dang, Robert Spencer? There is a restriction on free speech being imposed, self-imposed, by this leftist Islamic alliance. This is what we have to break. And so we have to do these conferences, and we have to risk our lives. And I don't know about you. I'm sure if you're doing the work that you're doing, and it is exemplary, David, it's really superlative work, then you get death threats on a regular basis. And no one ever says anything about our death threats. I mean, I have a file this big. But Daisy Khan on Christian Abnapur's show says, oh, I got a threat, but she's talking to Ayan Hersiali, who lives with bodyguards. That's how under death threat she is, but is making fun of Ayan Hersiali for having these bodyguards. She won't have them, she says, because she doesn't want to use taxpayer dollars. Meanwhile, they applied for taxpayer dollars, Ground Zero Mosque dollars, from the 9/11 fund, a taxpayer fund, even though it wasn't Ground Zero. They applied for tax to build that Ground Zero mosquestrosity. Who's threatening her? Who's threatening Daisy? I can tell you who's threatening me. Everyone from Yusuf Al-Khattab on down, I can tell you everyone who's threatening me. Who's threatening her? Nobody's threatening.
Pamela, we have to go to our last break. So I'm going to thank you for coming on the program tonight. I just wanted to give you one quick moment to tell people where they can get information about the upcoming conference.
Thank you so much for previewing the conference and explaining to people why we're doing this. I strongly urge you to come. It's the Jessica Mokdad Human Rights Conference. It's at the Dearborn, the Hyatt Dearborn. You can go to email me. You're going to have to give me your name, your address, your affiliations. There's no cost involved. This is purely an awareness. It's from 5 to 7 p.m. Bring your friends. Bring everyone, even people that don't believe it. Let them hear from reliable witnesses. You can email me at pamelageller@gmail.com, and you won't get in if your name is not on the list. We're not looking for trouble. We just want to educate, and we want to be heard. And David, I know you'll be speaking. I look forward to you being there. We have a number of people. Michael Corrin is coming in from Canada. I know that he'll be talking about the Shafia murders. There are a number of people that you need to hear. It's the Jessica Mokdad Human Rights Conference at the Hyatt in Dearborn, April 29th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pamela Geller. And we have to go to our final break. And just so everyone knows, I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe we'll be broadcasting that live if we can here on ABN. For those of you who are just in a position where you can't possibly make it to the conference, we're going to try and broadcast that live. Right now we have to go to our last break. We'll come back with a discussion with our friend Darwin Giles. Be back in a moment. Welcome back to Jesus or Muhammad. We've been discussing honor killings all evening. We went through the Muslim sources. We showed why this practice is doing so well in a really bad way in Islam. Why this practice thrives in an Islamic context, and it's because it fits so well with core Islamic teachings. And we focused on Jessica Mokdad, and Pamela Geller is having a conference in honor of Jessica Mokdad coming up, where we're going to see what we can do to raise awareness of some of these practices. And as Pamela pointed out, some of the people in Jessica's family and some of the friends have argued that this wasn't an honor killing, that she wasn't killed in any kind of honor crime, that Islam doesn't allow this sort of thing. We've already seen that part's wrong. But there is an important issue here. Was this actually an honor killing? Now, I invited Jessica's family to come on the program tonight and give their side of the story with regard to Jessica and with regard to honor killings in general. And also asked Jessica's friends who are denying that, some of Jessica's friends who are denying that this was an honor killing. Sadly, not willing to come on the show. But we do have someone here who did know Jessica, and Darwin.
I'd just like to say first and foremost, David, I'd just like to say thank you, Pamela, for being able to host this conference in honor of Jessica from someone who actually knew her, who actually she confided in, and who heard her cry, and who actually witnessed the actual fear that she lived in. I just want to say thank you for that. Where exactly do you want me to start?
Well, could you just tell us anything you want to say about Jessica? We don't know her. So.
Okay. Well, Jessica was a very beautiful person inside and out. She was definitely someone who really wanted to basically discover God for herself. She was someone who wanted to have liberties like every other young lady that is born American outside of the traditions of Islam are able to do, to pursue her own happiness and to pursue her own dreams. And I can say for sure, of knowing her, of hearing the issues that she actually faced on both sides of her family. She was very conflicted, and she lived in fear of even her life possibly ending up in this type of situation of what happened with her being murdered in cold blood.
So, again, I don't know the situation just based on what I've read. She had her biological parents were separated, and they had both married again.
Correct.
And it was her stepfather who
Correct.
ultimately killed her. But you're saying, from what you know from your interactions with her, that she had disputes with both sides of her family?
Correct. She had disputes on both sides, and the very most disturbing thing that I've witnessed is the stepmother, Cassandra, pretty much parading everything as if like she was just her daughter, like they had this good relationship. This wasn't an Islamic thing. When I witnessed Cassandra personally being wrapped up in her head covering as well whenever she would be out in public. And Jessica would wear it when she's with her family, and when she wasn't with her family, she let it be very known that she didn't want to wear it, that she did not want to be a part of this forced Islamic religion. She was very clear with that to me. And so Cassandra really is portraying a false picture. And Pamela has every right to place the conference to be named after Jessica in regards to this, because it was Islam that caused her death. She was considered a rebel from her mom's, both sides of her family, from her mom and stepdad to her biological father, and also the stepmother. The stepmother, Cassandra, was only a few years older than Jessica, so there was a very much conflict between the two. A lot of competition. Jessica felt she was jealous of her. She felt as if she could not be her mother because she was a peer of hers. And so when you have that type of turmoil on both sides, she was trapped. She didn't have anyone, and this is where I came into play, of meeting her, and I've known her close to 2 years now, of being in her life. When she lived in Grand Blanc, when she left from Milwaukee, and even when she came back.
So you knew her. So originally she lived in Michigan.
She lived in Michigan.
And then she moved away.
Correct.
And then she came back. Do you have any idea why she moved away in the
first
place?
Well, from what she expressed to me was that there was conflicts at home with her stepmother and her biological father. She was actually started to date a Caucasian male, and there was some issues revolving around that, and there was problems at home. There was serious problems, and she felt the need, I guess, to express these things to me. This is not made up. This is not something that I'm just creating. From the time I met her, this was probably 90% of what she talked about to me. And being a person who more so felt her bondage, I listened.
So it sounds like she moved away from Michigan because she thought she might have more freedom elsewhere.
Well,
she wanted to get away from some disputes.
It was disputes at home with the stepmother, and that was the main cause, from what I understand. She expressed of why she was leaving, and it was more so not necessarily that she just wanted to go, but there was such a problem there that she pretty much didn't have a huge choice in doing that. And so when she left, that's when the head covering thing came about again. This time it was more severe. She actually spoke to me right after the incident that her stepfather and her got into it over, and she was very. This is after she left it in Milwaukee. She was very disgruntled around the incident because she did not want to wear and continue these traditions. In my opinion, she was seriously a hero, because she did not just go down without fighting. She really did rebel, and she stood up for her personal liberties and her personal pursuits. And with that being said, it would be a dishonor to say that it was an obsession from the stepdad or anyone else of why she was murdered. I know why she was murdered. And if Jessica come back and attest, she would say that it was the bondage and the pressures of conforming and her being considered a rebel of why she was murdered. It was almost as if like this was the final thing, that actually the straw that kind of broke the saddle. It was actually the thing that just was enough was enough. She had already begun to become too westernized in her parents' opinion. She had already started to date Caucasian men. She had already started to do different things that was considered to be against Islamic culture. And that is why she's even had individuals say she deserved to die because of these things. And I just happen to be someone who personally witnessed it. I heard it, and I was almost somewhat leery because I grew up in America. Honor killings in America, is from what I grew up around, was not just something you would almost believe. You researched it, I studied it, I knew it was a part of Islamic law, but actually this time I can attest I personally witnessed this happen. And there's a cover-up from the family. So we can't look for her family to give us the truth. They're not. They're going to cover it up. They're covering it up now. And I personally sent messages to Cassandra letting her know that I'm aware of exactly what their relationship was like.
One more thing. You and I talked about this before the program, but I think it's really important because we're in a situation where lots of people just don't want to get involved.
Correct.
You know, I don't want to get involved in this mess. I see what happens when people like Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer get involved in these issues. It's just a big mess. I don't want to get involved in that. It's going to destroy my reputation. It's going to destroy my life to get involved and to try and take a stand with so many people against you. You told me that the last time Jessica wanted to meet with you to discuss these issues, you didn't go.
Yeah, I actually didn't, because I actually felt fearful for myself and my own personal, well-being because of the things she expressed to me. And with that being said, I face it every day on Flint Urban Culture through my website. I face death threats as well. Once I started to speak out against Jessica and the truth behind Islam, they even started to send death threats to me on Flint Urban Culture. So this is something that I personally experienced and know for a fact. This wasn't just an obsession. This wasn't just a person who was not aware of what they were doing. This was something that was in their family known for her to be a rebel, and she was looking for someone to have an outlet to, someone that she could confide in. And it just so happened that when she would express these things to me, I personally did not want to physically get involved because I didn't want for myself to get involved in that. And it was because of there was a fear that she could possibly and I both be harmed. And I think that it was one of the reasons in which I possibly could have been dead right with her if I would have became more involved as she wanted me to.
So back then, Jessica wants to meet, and you're thinking, I don't want to get involved in this mess. It could be dangerous. And yet, here you are.
Correct.
Here you are. Didn't want to take a stand then, but now you've had a change of heart.
Correct.
So I would have to agree with Darwin, and that is difficult. We've all been in situations where we look back and would give anything we could give to go back and change things that we've done. But what we can do is try to make the right decision next time. And so I have to say, Darwin and Pamela and Robert, I commend everyone who's sitting there saying, look, we have one life to live. We could spend it eating Cheetos. We could do lots of things. We could live in comfort. But there are people who say, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing, and my name is going to get dragged through the mud, and I'm going to be attacked by everyone, and I'm going to get death threats, and maybe one day someone might carry out one of those death threats. But here I stand. I can do no other. I think we have, maybe we'll get to a couple of calls real quick. We only have, full, okay, full phone lines. They kind of get mad at me because the phone lines are all full, but we did have some, to everyone. We're not going to get to all our callers. We do have a show tomorrow night, so any callers we don't get to, please call back. But I hope everyone understands we had some very important issues we had to cover, and so we wanted to get through them. Who do we have on the line? Tim, how you doing? Tim, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, David. God bless you, and thank you for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Tim. Because we've only got a couple minutes left, we're going to try and get to as many callers as we can in that little bit of time. So I'm just going to ask you to be brief with your question or comment.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm from the Ottawa area, and these honor killings have really touched our city, and it's a concern for everybody, not just Christians. I'm very, very upset with the way the media has portrayed all of this by not calling it like an honor killing, but just saying that it was just a random family quarrel that led to the deaths. There was a girl that was killed with her fiance at a shopping mall here in Ottawa, and then there was another killing that happened in 2011 that you've been talking about that happened in the Kingston area. This is a very, very big concern for for everybody that's up here in this area, and everybody's intimidated by even saying anything, and like even we had a movie come out that was suppressed. It was called Machine Gun Preacher with Gerard Butler, and they pulled it from all of the movie theaters, and it was only one theater that you were able to see it in, and it ran 2 nights, and then they stopped playing it. And I think that our freedom of expression and our freedom of religion is just not there anymore.
All right, we thank you, Tim, and we thank you for paying attention to what's going on and for speaking out against it. I agree with this, the media, their cowardice in not calling these crimes honor killings. It reminds me of the government classifying the Fort Hood massacre as workplace violence. No, when we start giving it these more general or vague names, we ignore the heart of the problem, and you're right, we need to stop. All right, next caller, who do we have on the line? Am? Hi, do you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, what's your name?
It's Aaron.
Oh, Aaron. Hi, how's it going?
Everything's going well. I just want to say thank you guys for your show and for raising awareness about these things.
All right, thank you.
I had a question. I'm a college student, and on my college campus, I work in the international ministry. I have probably several dozen Muslim friends, and these guys are from Saudi Arabia, from countries like Oman, and I have no problem eating with them, sharing the gospel with them openly, and yet whenever you guys go back to the original teachings of Muhammad, it's very clear what he taught, and I would venture to say some of them would be shocked to hear and say, "Oh, this is not what Islam really teaches." I'm just wondering, how is it possible for them to be that unaware of their own religion? Or are they just not truly Muslims? What is the problem there?
Well, yeah, and Aaron, thank you, because that is an excellent question for those who didn't get the core issue there. When you meet Muslims on college campuses, and they seem to have no clue of what Islam teaches. Are they actually ignorant, or are they deceiving you, maybe? And just to be clear, Islam does have a practice called taqiyya. They are allowed to deceive non-Muslims in order to protect themselves or protect Islam from non-Muslims. But I'll have to say that's comparatively rare if you're talking about college students. I would say, and I know because I have dialogues on college campuses, debates on college campuses, and I have to say the vast majority of Muslims have no clue what Islam really teaches. They tend to just believe whatever their imam tells them to believe, and that imam, whether he knows the truth or not, is telling Muslims what they should know. In a Western context, in other words, what's going to keep them safe from rethinking Islam? Because I'll tell you, the Muslim leaders, the sheikhs, the scholars, they know that if Muslims in general knew the facts about Muhammad, knew how he lived, knew about the Quran, knew what the Quran teaches, they'd leave. Not everyone, but most of them. I believe most Muslims would leave Islam if they knew what Islam actually teaches. And so the leaders know this, and so one of their prime jobs is to keep Muslims in ignorance about the teachings of Islam. And how do we know? Because every time I bring up any of these things, from Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, the Quran, all of their major sources, Muslims are shocked. They act like they've never heard this before, and the reason is they haven't. But here's the thing. If Muslim leaders are not telling them the truth about Islam, the task falls to us. And Aaron, please contact me, send a message to ABN that I said they could put you in contact with me. I can help you out on your college campuses. I have some materials you can print out and share with your Muslim friends. All right, we're out of time for all those callers that we didn't get to. I'm sorry. Again, call back tomorrow night. You can bring up, if you had questions about the material we covered tonight, feel free to call in tomorrow, even if we're on a different topic, and bring it up because we didn't get to, I know we didn't get to all the callers tonight. But for everyone out there, please just think about what's going on in the world today. Thousands of girls are dying every year. We can look at Islam's teachings and see why this practice continues in Islam and why it's spreading. Yes, it's spreading. The problem is growing. It's spreading here into the West. And what are we going to do? Are we going to sit back and do nothing? I don't know about you. I don't want to be at the end of my life and look back and say, I had a chance right there to stand up for defenseless people, and I didn't do it. I don't ever want to do that. I don't ever want to face that situation. We all need to stand up for what's right, and I hope you'll join us. And for the Muslims who are watching out there, I hope you'll join us too. If you really believe that Islam does not allow or promote these kinds of honor killings, I disagree with you, but if you really believe that, it's time to do something about the problem. And for all of you Muslims out there who sit around complaining that people like Pamela Geller, Robert Spencer are taking a stand against honor killings, for all of you Muslims out there who say, no, you need to stop doing that, you must be bigoted if you call for protection of Muslim girls who are about to be killed. For all of you Muslims out there, guess what? You've had 14 centuries to deal with this problem, and you haven't. It's getting worse. And if you're not going to deal with it, if you're just going to ignore it, don't get upset that other people are going to step into that gap and are going to take this problem head on. Well, we thank everyone for watching this evening. We'll have another show tomorrow night at 10:30. God bless everyone, and we'll see you next time on Jesus or Muhammad.